With Nick de Vries struggling for performance and consistency in his first full-time year in Formula One with AlphaTauri, many fans are already condemning him to the Red Bull family scrap heap of drivers that has gone before him. They're also suggesting the 21-year-old Kiwi Liam Lawson could be the answer to AlphaTauri's woes. My question is, would that be a mistake for the young driver? Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am here to talk about the whole Nick de Vries, Liam Lawson, Daniel Ricciardo, are they, aren't they debacle that has been raging around Formula One and spitting out new rumours every day. I feel almost every day this week at the very least. And as we all know, Nick de Vries, for his side of it, after he made a barnstorming appearance in his first full F1 race at the Italian Grand Prix, as a stand-in for Alex Albon last year, where of course he scored points, he immediately garnered a lot of attention from Helmut Marko, and it really wasn't long before he signed on the dotted line. And with Pierre Gasly moving to Alpine, it sort of just worked out for both parties. Unfortunately, things have not been sunshine and lollipops for de Vries since he's gone into that seat in AlphaTauri. And out of the 5 rounds to date, he's had 1 retirement and finished no higher than 14th. And that's really difficult for him in comparison with Yuki Tsunoda, who has actually been extremely consistent this year after a couple of years of being very hot and cold. And if you look at Yuki's results, he's finished in the points twice and just outside the points in 11th every other race. So he really is putting in a lot of consistent performances. Now, there are a lot of reasons why de Vries might be struggling in comparison with Yuki, but there have also been a number of not so pretty moments for him. In Baku alone, he was involved in 3 different incidents, one of them with Yuki Tsunoda, and it was all over the course of the entire Grand Prix weekend. He had an incident in quali, he had an incident in the sprint race, and then again in the actual race itself. And unfortunately for him, he's starting to develop a sort of Nicholas Latifi-like reputation for getting involved in incidents, and Lando Norris actually, I will say, suggested that Nick de Vries should just try braking a bit earlier during the Miami Grand Prix weekend, when he unfortunately was the one who was affected by de Vries' latest incident. Now, as we all know from Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon's recent experiences within Red Bull team environments, they don't like to invest and not see an immediate return on investment. And they also won't wait around for a driver to get their shit together before they make their own move. The problem for de Vries is that over the last couple of years, the performance of the AlphaTauri has actually been steadily declining. If you look at their results since Yuki Tsunoda joined, for example, in 2019, they've dropped from finishing 6th in the Constructors' Championship to the last 2 years in a row finishing 9th, and this year they are tracking towards, you guessed it, 9th. And, Helmut Marko has already publicly commented that he wants both of his drivers to step up their performances, and apparently there is a possibility that a conversation was had between Helmut Marko and Nick de Vries, where de Vries was basically told that if he doesn't get his performances together by the summer break, he will be replaced. As I mentioned at the top of the video, Liam Lawson is a New Zealand-born driver, and if he did get into this AlphaTauri seat, that would make him the first Kiwi driver since Brendan Hartley in 2017 and 2018, I should say. And he, of course, also was part of the Red Bull family of teams and was driving for Toro Rosso, which of course is the prior branding of AlphaTauri. Now, Lawson will not be looking to necessarily follow exactly in Hartley's footsteps, because he scored just 4 points in total in his time as an F1 driver. And unfortunately, that was a level of performance that ultimately prevented him from securing longevity within the sport. Now, I think it's interesting to compare Lawson's rise to his position against de Vries in this scenario. And unlike Nick de Vries, who has won F2, Lawson has not won either F2 or F3. And although he has come close, the closest that he got was 3rd place in the 2022 F2 Championship. And fair enough, while winning Formula feeder series is not a guarantee for success in Formula One. It's often seen as a reasonable indicator of talent, and so in the kind of absence of those accolades, it's interesting to see how much attention and sort of, you know, how much buzz Lawson continues to gather around his ability and his performance. He did take part in an F1 Young Driver test, which happened at the end of the 2022 season when all the racing had finished, and he did drive 111 laps in Sergio Perez's Red Bull, and he finished roughly 4 tenths off Max Verstappen's pace and set the 5th and 10th fastest laps respectively of that session. So obviously this is not a no pressure scenario, but it's not a live racing scenario, so we can't really compare performance exactly between that and what we might hope to expect from him on an F1 weekend, for example. But he seems to have a decent handle on the car at least. The question I have, as I mentioned earlier, is whether or not it would be a wise move for Lawson to go full-time with AlphaTauri, or whether he would just end up being chewed up and spat out by a driver academy that has produced just one championship winning driver in the last 7 years, which is obviously Max Verstappen. I think there are pros and cons here, obviously, for Lawson. The biggest draw, which is the one that is probably the hardest to resist, is Red Bull's dominance right now. And every F1 driver has to intrinsically believe that they are capable of winning championships and being the best driver on the grid. And if you're up close and personal in an environment like Red Bull at a time when they've just won 2 back-to-back world championships, you'll probably be pretty reluctant to put any distance between yourself and the opportunity to drive that car. Now, the problem is that seats in F1 are arguably even more limited now than they have been in the past, and there won't be an easy route to Red Bull racing for Lawson if he were to come into that AlphaTauri seat in replace of Nick de Vries, unless Red Bull were willing to potentially loan him to another team. This is the alternative scenario of him going into AlphaTauri, maybe where he could get a full-time drive, get more on-track time, and then almost prove himself before coming back into Red Bull based on what happens with Max Verstappen and Checo Perez. I think, you know, it's a really tough one for him, because while Red Bull stock has been rising exponentially over the last couple of years, AlphaTauri's has been declining, so the route there is really not guaranteed. Now, if this rumour is true about Helmut Marko giving Nick de Vries an ultimatum, there's also been something added on to the end of that, personally I think, by F1 media and speculators, which is that Marko has told de Vries that if he doesn't get his performances up by Spa, he'll be replaced by Daniel Ricciardo. This seems like a bad idea for everyone involved, if you ask me. Daniel Ricciardo returning to what is supposed to be a junior team that he graduated from a decade ago is not a good look. I think giving up on de Vries this early in the game does not cover Red Bull in glitter either. And as much as I love Daniel Ricciardo and I truly do miss his full-time presence in F1, his potential placement as Yuki Tsunoda's teammate literally defeats the entire purpose for which Red Bull's sister team was founded. And arguably, if they're sticking to the team's original goals, then the choice for a replacement for de Vries, the right choice, would be Lawson and not the more experienced Ricciardo. But as we know, Red Bull's number one, at the end of the day, always the bottom line is results. And who knows if taking a punt on another young driver is something that they're willing to do at this point. Thank you, as always, for watching this video. Drop a comment down below and let me know if you think that Nick de Vries is really on his way out of AlphaTauri already and potentially out of F1 entirely. If so, who would you like to replace him? Are you in the Liam Lawson camp? Are you in the Daniel Ricciardo camp? Is there an outsider that I haven't mentioned in this video that you think could take that seat and get better performances out of that car than de Vries? Let me know. Drop a comment down below. I'll be hanging out with you all there once this video goes live. But until then, take care and enjoy your racing.